Your life experience, good or bad, is a gift when you share it with others. At Taxi Chronicles, we allow real riders with real stories to share their gift. So hopefully this episode will intrigue, enhance or inspire you. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Morning. Yes, we're back with another rider, another story. Today we're honoured to have a very conscious, intelligent guy, and we've been talking about religion, and we talked about quite a lot, and I think everybody should hear what he has to say. Like I said, he's very intelligent, and he's talking a bit about his own personal experience. So nice to have you here today.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
Okay. So you were saying about you came from Mitcham, you started to change your life around, and it's going on from there, really.
Yeah, basically just going from strength to strength, really, by utter determination to not keep dealing with the same shit I kept dealing with. A bit of background again, I guess. My parents seeked asylum from Kosovo. Born to think I was a Muslim by default. Bunch of other shit. The environment I was born in wasn't very welcoming, I guess, especially to foreigners and stuff like that. But anyway, I just turned 17 and just changed my life. I just thought, what the hell am I doing here? What's going on? There's no way I'm going to get to anywhere I want to get to if I'm living in Mitcham, or even just taking in the energy of Mitcham. And so I just went to a school, a sixth form, that I knew no one at, and then going from that, I started experiencing things that I never experienced before, like being the new guy in the school. I didn't even know what that felt like, and that was insane. That was great.
It's like you got a blank canvas.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's like you know, when people talk about they go uni or whenever they go traveling, they can actually reinvent themselves, kind of thing. And no one that they know is there to be like, yo, dude, that's not you. Because they're the people who really do end up stopping you, and it's a shame because they don't see it like that. They see it as if they're just helping you out by reminding you don't go too far from who you are, kind of thing. But it's like, who is anyone to tell you that when you're trying to experience a whole nother life, or even just trying to build upon yourself and your self-awareness on, like, what if the version of you that everyone knew at the moment was not your full potential, which more often than not is always the case. Like, who's at their full potential? Who's actually a fully fledged human? Like, who can say that about themselves, to be like, listen, I'm not only comfortable in my own skin, but I understand the profound effect of having a decent perspective on life and myself. And not many people even say those words. Not many people even think those things. So I don't know what led me to get to that point. I don't know. I always thought growing up I was a little black sheep in my family, so I'm not surprised that I'm where I'm at now in terms of how I think and stuff like that. But there was nothing that specifically led me to it. I think it was just get tired of the same old shit, man. And then you look at people who are making it. I've seen loads of interviews. I've watched 1,000+ interviews of successful people or people that I admire or get inspired by, just talk about their life, where they come from. And it's more often than not, it's not inheritance. Like, they've earned it. They got given an inch and they earned a mile, and they kept on going with that mentality. And then in the process, I think as you become slightly more successful, not because of money, but because of self-satisfaction, you start experiencing thoughts and beliefs and behaviors and experiences that you would never ever, experience. You'd never know these things, because I do think a large part of life is perspective, and I don't think that's spoken about enough. I feel like people tie themselves to labels and identity and even values and morals, because sometimes, there are certain things that many people would look at and go, yo, that's wrong, man, you shouldn't be doing that. But without doing that one wrong thing, you wouldn't experience knowing it's wrong in the first place, but then you might get to something good by doing something wrong. You know, a lot of times people make mistakes and do shit, and yeah, they'll pay the consequence for it, but then paying the consequence is also a blessing in disguise, because it could have been a bigger mistake. Had they not done that small mistake, there could have been a bigger one that led after that, but they learned from the first one, so it was good enough that the second one didn't happen.
Okay, that's good. So, you said there's a motivational story that I heard on YouTube, and the guy says, I think it's Joe Rogan, not his story, but someone said,
Yeah.
he said this guy, and you may have heard it, so tell me if you have, where this guy, he went to do his degree, not his degree, his GCSE equivalent, and he got a high grade. And the teachers always knew him as a troublemaker, class disruptive, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they thought he cheated. So they spoke to his mum, and his mum said, "Come on now, are you sure you cheated?" He said, "No, I really tried, but I couldn't." To be honest, I couldn't cheat. So they said, "Okay." And then from then on, because his grade was really high, he started to do really well. He started to go to the library and do all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went on to get some high-flying job eventually. And one day, a letter came through the post, and his wife said, "Are you actually going to read that letter? Open that letter?" And he said, "Mate, yeah, okay." But then she opened it, and what it was said in the letter is that the year he got his qualifications, 13 of them were a mistake, and he was one of them, and he actually got a very lower qualification. And what they had worked out is that, well, the moral to that story is really that it wasn't because he was intelligent, it was because he started to act like somebody who had faith in themselves. So he'd go to uni, he'd go to the library, he would study at home, he'd hang around with people who were like-minded and focus like that. So I always take that to see that it's something we all have in us, but we just need to be able to shake off everything that's bad to be able to truly and wholly focus.
But that's the thing though, like, who's to say what's bad?
Anything that doesn't help you progress.
But that's another thing though, because in retrospect, whenever I look back at things that I know that were bad for me at the time, in retrospect, when I look back at them, they're probably some of the best things that have ever happened to me.
But you left them to move on.
Yeah.
But so you did shake it.
Yeah,
so
you
learned from that experience.
There are things that don't serve me 100%. However, this is something else that I learned through yoga that really, really impacted me, and it was learning to not say the words good and bad.
Okay.
And along with that, it was also, if you don't know, have humility, own it, say you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But don't stop there, go find out. You not knowing should breed curiosity, and life in itself is just a massive pool of curiosity. You find out the information you want to find out, and that's how I think it should be. You explore, not you get enforced a belief pattern or certain intellect and whatever. So back to the good and bad, I just don't really associate things with good and bad. I don't associate things with good or bad energy, good or bad meanings, or anything like that, because I've heard enough stories where things that people would think are bad. Like there's this story, and I might not be saying it word for word exactly the way it is, but there's this like old tale that I heard once, and it was a farmer and his son back in the day, a farmer and his son working on a shift. His son jumps on a horse, and the horse ends up going ballistic. Son drops off the horse and he breaks his leg.
I know, yeah, go ahead.
And now he's broken his leg. All the neighbours come round and go, "Oh my God, that's so bad. Your son's broken his leg. What are you going to do? You don't have a worker now, blah, blah." The dad goes, "No, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Don't say it's bad." Next thing you know, the army comes through. And it's a war about to happen. And back in the day, they didn't ask you whether you wanted to join or not. It was every male in that family had to join the army. The dad was too old, so they didn't ask the dad. They looked at the son and they told the son, "Son, you're definitely joining the army." Son showed his broken leg, and they were like, "You can't join the army. because you're not able to at the moment. And so he skipped the army, and then the dad was like explaining that your broken leg has now actually probably saved your life, innit? I haven't said that word for word. I know I haven't, because I know there's a lot longer to that story, and it sounds a lot more profound than me saying it in the back of a cab. But he that there just, and when I heard it, especially the way that it's actually supposed to be said, it hit me that if I look back at my life and anything that's happened to me that I may have thought was bad at the time, or even good at the time, there have been many things that I've been convinced have been good for me, but have not been good for me. There are many things that I've been convinced have been super bad at the time, but then have actually, in retrospect, been the best thing that have ever happened to me. And so for me, the contradiction of whether it's good or bad in the moment, and then whether it's good or bad, whether it continues to be good or bad in your life, just don't use the words good or bad then. Like, it's like, all right, cool. If it's going to change meaning for me, depending on how I react to it, then I get to shape what it is. I get to call it what it is and react to it how it is. You know, if something's bad, some people react differently to, when they call something bad. They get fearful. They run away from it. They bury their head in the sand. Some people go head first. Some people very like, shit, this is something bad, I need to deal with this right now, and they have to devote their whole life to making sure that they get this thing right. And it's a reaction. Like, you utter these words, good or bad, and you're deciding your own fate, your own reaction. Cool, I need to go along this path then and go do this then to affect it this way. But as soon as I changed the good or bad mentality, man, things started flowing for me. Like, opportunities would happen and my perspective would shift, and I wouldn't start seeing things as only good or bad. I'd just start seeing things as experiences. And that really led me to attain a life of self-satisfaction, gratitude as well for everything, whether it's good or bad. You know, when I was doing yoga, they were basically always trying to say, well, if you ever go through something bad, or not bad, if you ever go through something that's not entirely pleasant, then there's always what was it?
So there's always a positive and a negative.
Yeah, but there's a saying. What is it? Find something in the poison. What's it called? There's a way of saying there's always a good and a bad. Sorry, there's always
I think I know what you're trying to say, because every poison has its element of what do you call it? If you get bitten by a snake, you use another snake's thing. Antidote. Is it antidote?
Yeah. Antidote? But it's not that I'm looking for. Shit. Find the barb in a poison. Oh, mate. Anyway, it's too early in the morning to be remembering all these quotes.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just basically finding I don't want to say the good and the bad, because I really don't feel like that, but it's just finding the lessons, I guess.
I hear what you're trying to say. To me, it sounds like you're trying to remove that negative and positive. If I was going down the road that you were going, I would look at it like this: if it's not enhancing my life, then I need to shed it. I may need to come back to it later on, but it needs to be helping me on my journey. A bit like a computer game where you can pick up tools that you need for that section, and then you can drop it and pick something else up.
Yeah.
And all tools can be used for many different things in that respect. So you said you spoke about how you changed your life around. What's your occupation? What do you do now?
So I was a studio manager at Alva Studios for 2 years.
Okay.
Basically, I was doing a lot of dead-end jobs that I thought were side hustles, but were sucking the willpower out of me. And so I ended up changing what was originally having my side hustle as something that I wanted to do forever, but it was my side hustle. And now that I say it, I'm like, that's actually ridiculous.
What does a studio manager do for those who are the younger people who are listening?
So in the studio that I was in, a studio manager is pretty much the hostess of everything. Hostess of the mostess. So like we get crews coming in, hiring out a studio, and when I say studio, if you check out Alva Studios, you'll see the sheer size of some of these. They call them coves, and they're basically infinity coves. And it's like, you know, Matrix. When you ever see Matrix?
Yeah.
When Neo's in that white space.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like when he's in the program, but he's in the white space, and then they get all that racks of guns out and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's basically like that. You can have that same effect.
Okay.
The cove doesn't have any edges, and everything's smooth and rounded. So it's just called an infinity cove. And we get clients who come there. All the top fashion brands: Burberry, Fendi, Mulberry, Gucci, Prada. We have all of these brands in fashion, and then you've got all these other people like Sainsbury's and Amazon and Pfizer, the guys who made the vaccines and stuff like that. We have all these different clients. Adverts, commercials, editorials, the list goes on, man. Just anything marketing-wise these days. Anything.
Is there a difference between adverts and commercials, or is it just American and British terminology?
Kind of, yeah. But then I guess the terminology on set, if you were to say you're doing an advert specifically, they wouldn't only just say an advert. I mean, like a commercial would be basically what we would call an advert. So it would be an advert. But an advert in itself could be an advert on what, social media, an advert on Facebook, on YouTube, on like, what is it? Like, it's an advert, so like, what is it on? But a commercial in itself is usually seen as like
dedicated
TV.
to TV.
Yeah. So a lot of that.
What? Obviously, you must have very good skills at managing people and organising things.
No, that was by accident. It was a happy accident that I became a manager.
Yeah, but you've got those skills now to do your job.
Yeah.
So,
by being on the job, yeah.
What would you say you've learnt that you wish you knew when you had started?
Accountability. It's always my fault, kind of thing.
Oh, it's you're the one who's meant to bring everything together.
But yeah, I'm the manager, so for me, if you're going to be a leader of any sort, your family, your business, your community, your whatever, it's your fault. Everything is your fault. Because, and it's not a harsh way of saying it, it really is quite humbling to be able to be the one who takes the responsibility instead of looking for the blame. Like, who's to take the blame here? Like, I find no satisfaction in knowing that if you do something wrong, I tell you you're wrong. I find no satisfaction in that. I find satisfaction in saying, who's your sort of manager or leader or boss or whatever, who is that, and did they teach you well enough to, you know, in the first place? Did they let you know well enough about quality or about whatever? So like, for me, it's just who taught you. I care more about who taught you than the fact that you made a mistake in the first place. Because
but I suppose if that person who was taught by a good person, but they're just a bit neglectful, or they're having a bad day,
I still think it's their fault. I mean, if they're having a bad day, it's different. Like, because obviously I won't go that deep in it all the time. You know, at the same time, it has also taught me about empathy. I had that anyway, and I think that's why being a manager kind of happened as a happy accident, because I show empathy first, and then I have opinions or advice after. You know, like when I'm at work, I would go out of my way if I was at work and someone was going through some shit and they were, you know, my studio assistants or whatever. I'd go out of my way to be like, go home then, happily go home. Like, it is what it is, and I will take the brunt of that shift or whatever, knowing I got one short staff. I was okay with knowing that I did something like that, even if it was a long night for me or a longer night for me. I didn't care about that. I cared more about the fact that someone of my staff was treated better than they're probably treated anywhere else, kind of thing. And so yeah, empathy and accountability were probably the two most important things that being a manager taught me in it.
Okay, that's good.
Because there's things you could take everywhere, really. especially the empathy. If you ain't got any empathy, then good luck with life.
How do you deal with all the egos and all the attitudes?
Well, for me, it's because I'm from Mitcham. I didn't like. For me, growing up, and I mean this when I say I didn't see colour. I only saw class. I knew I was lower class the minute I was born. Like, I knew I was lower class, but I did not know that there was a difference between me and my best friend, who was called Sadio at the time. He's from Sierra Leone. All my friends were black growing up. All my friends were lower class growing up. So for me, I thought we were all in the same boat. We all got treated like shit from police. We all got treated like shit in the area, you know, neglected and blah, blah. And we all had funny names, or, do you know what I mean? Like, for me, it was like, there was no difference between who I live with in this area, apart from the fact that we're all part of a certain class, or we get treated like we are. And, sorry, what's your question again?
I said, how do you deal with the difficult people?
So that was
when they come onto the sets? You know, people come on like, oh, I work for Amazon, or I'm part of Hugo Boss.
Yeah, see, the thing is, if an ego is presented in front of me, I think if you nip it in the bud sooner than later, by just, like, for me personally, I care more about character than I care about status. Like, if you haven't got a good character and you're coming up to me with some ego, I personally have been told that I'm a bit of a breath of fresh air when people talk to me, because I don't, originally in the studios and stuff like that, they treat photographers or directors and people like this, or even talent like models or actors and actresses, they treat them like gods. Like, anyone on set treats these people like gods. The minute they come in, they get treated like, yo, what do you want? Let me get that for you. Coffee, blah, blah. Get asked 1,000 times, what can I do? What do you want? Can I get you anything? Blah, blah. Like, they just get treated like gods.
Is that because it's contract basis?
No, it's because it's a hierarchy on set. Basically, the more important your role is, the more important you're treated. Which, for me, I just see it as like, everyone's got a role to do. Yes, some might be a little bit more influential than others. Like, the person making the coffees ain't the same person as taking the photography. But you're all part of the same crew, you're all part of the same thing, so just get on with the job, and I'm sure it will all be executed perfectly. So for me, I just don't see status anymore, or like, I've removed myself from any hierarchy. I know who I am as an individual. I know who I want to be for the rest of my life, or who, you know, how I want to grow as a person. And so if I ever come in front of anyone, it don't even have to be at work. If I ever come in front of anyone and they show me a bit of ego, I'll show them empathy. You know, that clearly for them has come from somewhere. They are who they are from something. They've gone through an experience.
So you would say something like, what, are you okay today? That kind of
It depends, man, because if they came up to me and they were just rude, then I would seriously treat them in a you know, I wouldn't give them their own medicine, because I feel like that's quite spiteful. But if they were to come across with a bit of an ego, I don't know, man, it's always different, so I can't really give you a one-stroke answer with something like that. But I just know that who I am will always reflect a good energy, not good, but a positive energy. And it don't matter if you give me ego, I'm still Valdrin. It don't matter if you give me the best version or the worst version of yourself, I'm still me. So I feel like that actually it works quite well.
Okay.
In talking to people.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for that.
No worries, brother. I'm really sorry we couldn't continue the convo.
Don't worry. It's all right. Let me grab that. And we wish you well.
Thank you, brother.
We hope you liked that Taxi Chronicles interview. Don't forget to share and subscribe to get the latest episode. Ever considered investing in the continent with the fastest growing economies and population on Earth? The same continent that holds 30% of the world's known natural resources. Listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories, where you hear real investors with real stories from around the world share their experience of investing in Africa. We post Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m. British Standard Time.